then you burst into fire. Forever. Hello.
Hello.
You're listening to The Full Blossom of the Evening, a podcast about David Lynch and Twin Peaks.
I'm Indigo.
And I'm Hilary.
Listeners, we're going to tell it to you, and we're going to tell it to you straight. Today, we're talking about
The Wizard of Oz.
It was Laura, and I saw her glowing. I saw her smiling. I feel like I'm gonna dream tonight.
Before we get into today's episode, we have to emote a little bit.
Yeah.
Because some pretty exciting things have happened for us in our podcast. First, this week, we got to meet some listeners.
which was crazy. Chris and Valerie, you guys are so nice.
Oh,
It was such a pleasure. It was such an honor and a pleasure to get to meet you and talk about everything with you. And Chris might even be helping us a little bit with our next episode.
Oh, it was so fun. It's just so fun to connect with people from outside of our area, meet new people who are listening to us from far away. And speaking of people listening to us from far away, although our topic last month was kind of hyper-local, and I don't think either of us expected it to break every record we've ever had for first
So crazy.
and second month listenership. Thank you for caring about a department store
Right.
that used to exist here in our hometown.
I was going to say, it's not even here anymore.
Not only did it break all of our records by a substantial number, it's the first time that our listenership for listeners outside of the United States was above 50%.
Which is so crazy. So also, like, if you're listening to this episode and you are one of those people, thank you for finding us. That's so crazy and so cool. Wherever you are, we are so honored that you found us.
We really are. And we're humbled to think that, we're sitting here
Yeah.
on the floor of your apartment
Right.
talking into microphones, and we're reaching Russia and Hong Kong and Tunisia and Brazil, and what a delight.
Yeah. It means so much to us. I know we say it all the time, but like the reason why we do is because we can't thank you all enough.
Yes, and we take nothing for granted.
No, not at all. We're always shocked and delighted and honored, really honored. It is just such a pleasure to be here with you all.
Sure is. And I think that going into today's topic, which is in some ways so American, it's made us very mindful that now knowing the majority of our audience is coming from outside of the United States, it allows us to consider this topic kind of in that light.
Yes.
From, yeah.
Which is why we spent about 5 minutes looking up how we should pronounce his name.
Yes. Because
We weren't sure if it was Baum or Baum.
Baum, yes.
And so what we learned was that if you are in Germany, you probably say it Baum. But we in Pittsburgh, at least, say Baum. We have a street here called Baum Boulevard. And so we've always said Baum. So we will be saying Baum in this episode. But we wanted to make this distinction because if you were in Germany, we're not trying to offend you.
Exactly. And being that Frank Baum was American, we imagine he probably said his name that way too.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Well, David Lynch said of The Wizard of Oz, there is not a day that goes by that I don't think about The Wizard of Oz. And that's been me too for the last month or so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've done an episode on Alice in Wonderland where we did briefly kind of nod at The Wizard of Oz. And we both had said in that episode that growing up, we were both more affected by Alice. But that's not to say that I didn't love The Wizard of Oz too as a kid. I think they're both really fantastic pieces of children's literature.
yes, I think it's neat to think about The Wizard of Oz as America's first and most enduring fairy tale.
Yeah. To be doing this episode right now of all times is really cool because it's having a resurgence because of
Sure.
Wicked. Like now more than ever, people are talking about The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Which
and
is so crazy.
and it's like every few generations, it seems we want to retell this story for ourselves.
Yeah.
That we really cling to these characters and situations and settings, and they keep getting new iterations.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like Alice is the same way, where these are two classic pieces of literature that get retold often. They get new movies where we're looking at it through a different lens or something. And yeah, and Wicked's like a great example of that, where they were like, okay, what's the story that hasn't been told? And
Yes.
it's from the witch's perspective. So, which also the musical is very different from the book. And the movie is more similar to the book, honestly, I would say, than the musical is. So it's this long pipeline that's been so enduring.
And even before that, we had Return to Oz in
Right.
the 80s. And
Right,
we
which
had,
I love that. I love that movie. Farouza Balk is crazy in that movie, and I love her.
and The Wiz, of
Yeah,
course.
right.
Another iconic
Right.
iteration of
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah, it's like it's so fascinating that there's so much to play with. A lot of people are so familiar with the Oz of the movie, which David was probably a lot more familiar with that than the book. As we've kind of talked about before, he wasn't like a huge reader. But Oz in the book, it's so much more vast. It's
Yes.
like there's all these like other very fascinating lands. I think a lot of people don't realize how big the series is.
Sure.
There's a lot of Oz books.
Well, those other books weren't nearly as popular or successful.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that after he'd finished reading it, he thought that children would ask him about Dorothy.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They
No.
wanted more Oz books,
Right.
not more Dorothy books.
Right. I mean, that was something we talked about in our Alice episode.
Yeah.
That Alice has a pretty strong, fierce personality. And Dorothy is a lot more vanilla. And like, even I would say in the movie, they do give her almost a little bit more character.
I think this is a good moment to sort of talk about our preparation because, of course, we rewatched The Wizard of Oz
Yes.
for this. And I think it had been decades since
Same.
I really watched it. I watched it with my daughter when she was young, but I think I was more watching her for her reactions than I was really taking in the film.
Yeah.
And I started to watch it with notebook in hand, thinking I was, doing podcast prep. And I abandoned the notebook.
No, I did the same thing. I had my phone out in my notes app, and then I just kind of stopped and fell into it.
I fell into it.
And then the movie was over, and I was like, I didn't even take any notes. What was I doing?
I
was like, I left my body for a little bit.
I think I was going to watch it for research. And I ended up watching it for pleasure and genuinely enjoying it. I did not expect to enjoy it, and I thoroughly did.
Right. Well, so of course we watched Lynch Oz.
Yes,
We wanted
yes.
to engage with that media so that we,
So we didn't repeat it.
Yeah. Or if we were mentioning things, we could give a nod to it and be like, this is also brought up here.
Sure.
But one of the things that they definitely talk about, that we talked about as well, was that it holds up. It holds up. The makeup and the sets and the effects are so impressive for the time. I'm watching it and I'm just going, whoa, these costumes and this makeup and
Yeah.
everything, it's flawless.
Really,
Like
truly.
you could put out a movie today with that quality and no one would be surprised. I'm watching it and have to keep, knocking myself on the head and going, no. This is 1939 that they're doing this.
I know.
Unbelievable.
And even when you can see the artifice.
Yeah.
So, for example, the Munchkin Land, everything is very shiny and looks kind of plasticky. And you can see where the painted backdrop begins and the physical set ends. And that's in a couple of places,
Yeah.
for sure. And yet, even though I could see that,
Yeah.
and my adult brain was able to register, oh, that is fake,
Right.
I was still completely absorbed in the fantasy. I
Right.
willfully suspended all my disbelief. And I thought on this viewing that I was crediting that to the performances.
Yeah.
Because really, every single actor there is so all in. There are no winking asides. There's no breaking the fourth wall. Everyone is so earnest and invested and fully embodying these exaggerated characters, these extreme, I'm thinking even of like the lion, right, or the Wicked Witch of the West.
Like they are their characters.
They are them. And Dorothy as well. So Judy Garland as Dorothy,
Incredible.
just brings such a lovableness and a wholeness to that character that I don't think we find on the page.
See, that's the thing, is I think that Dorothy is so plain in the book, but oh my God. The thing that really sent me over the edge was when she's begging for them not to take Toto away. There's a point where it shows her face and her eyes are sparkling with just the beginnings of tears. You know, it's she in that moment looks so incredibly innocent and earnest, and you just have this deep need and urgency to protect her. Like I'm watching it and I want to like leap through the screen and hold her hands and go like, oh my God, we're not gonna let them do this. She looks so genuinely scared and hopeless and confused.
I adore her.
I know. Well, and you were telling me you saw, I think that was like a Reddit post or something.
Oh,
where,
No, it was a comment on maybe a reel or TikTok or something. Somebody posted their children watching The Sound of Music for the first time and just were focused on their faces. And a comment said that a woman said she'd shown her 4-year-old son The Wizard of Oz, and during Somewhere Over the Rainbow, he turned to his mother with tears in his eyes and said, "Mom, I love her."
Which is like how I felt too rewatching it. As soon as she starts singing, and I think I had just forgotten how incredible she is in that scene. And I was like, we had that discussion, and then I was rewatching it and I was like, oh, I love her too. Oh, I love her so much too.
Right.
Right. And I think that it is such, again, this like long enduring story that has touched so many generations. And I do think that part of it is because of that movie. And I hadn't realized until we got into the research. I didn't know about the whole thing where it was a flop when it first came out.
Yeah, it was really because of television that it succeeded at all.
Which is so crazy, because I can't imagine it being a flop, because at this point, by the time I was engaging with it, it was already a masterpiece, right? It was already this classic that every generation of my family that was alive that I could talk to, you know, at that point they had seen it. I remember
it was already beloved.
Yes, I remember my grandma saying she remembered the first time that she watched it on TV, and she and her siblings just lost it when it went to color. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that transition and how incredible that was.
And boy, does that still hold up, doesn't it?
Right?
Yes.
I know. That's the thing, is it's just like everything about it, all of the work that goes into it, the care that went into it to create this world holds up. It's still just as magical. I'm watching it as an adult that has seen all these movies with CGI and whatever, and I'm like, this is better. I'm watching this and I'm like, actually, practical effects are better. I saw this one post recently that I was like, oh, that's perfect. I like immediately shared it, where it was like a tweet or something where somebody was like, I love you practical effects, I love you practical makeup, I love you. Like, it was just like, it just kept repeating things, and I was like, yeah, that's how I feel. I'm like, I will take practical any day over CGI, because it feels tangible. I don't care if it looks even a little hokey. I want that.
I was making a connection with David Lynch because I was thinking about how hands-on he was about so many of his effects. But also that even when things look kind of fake, if the performances are what they are in The Wizard of Oz, those slightly fake effects don't matter a bit. And I think David Lynch brought the same kind of performances out of his actors.
Absolutely.
And so there's a similar effect on us as viewers that we are so absorbed in the very, very strange world.
So bizarre.
Because we cling on to these performances.
Yeah.
And those full embodied performances take us through the unbelievable. In contrast, if you have CGI effects that create this great verisimilitude, but the performances are flat, I could not care less.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Eraserhead is a perfect example where there's a lot of, like props and practicals going on in that. There's a lot of makeup. We've got the lady in the radiator. And like the Eraserhead baby, like it would be so easy if we had bad actors in that if they're not engaging with the props in a way that is believable, then you're not buying it. If the lady in the radiator isn't selling to us that's the way that she looks, we're going, oh, look at this silly hokey makeup. It is all about how they're carrying this makeup, how they're carrying these props, how they engage with the practicals informs our belief.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think also a thing I did not remember, but then saw upon rewatching was the little text that they have before the film.
Oh, yes.
That was like, it immediately drops you into this sense of whimsy and childlike joy and wonder. Because, it's like they just pop up on the screen. It says, for nearly 40 years, this story has given faithful service to the young in heart, and time has been powerless to put its kindly philosophy out of fashion. To those of you who have been faithful to it in return, and to the young in heart, we dedicate this picture. Ugh. I did not remember that at all.
I didn't either.
And then I'm watching it, and I'm just like, me? For me, this was made for me.
Yeah.
You made this for us, for the dreamers. You made this for the dreamers. And so already from that instant beginning, I'm just like, oh, okay, so I'm going to cherish this.
Yes, I agree. And, this was so much a part of the ritual and the fabric of our lives. Yeah. That this was on television every year. It was a special event. Everyone in school would be talking about, are you going to watch The Wizard of Oz? Oh, we have to watch The Wizard of Oz. Because if you didn't watch it that night, you didn't get to see it again for another year. It wasn't in theaters. There was no such thing as VCRs or streaming, of course. And I love that it was special. Yeah. Not just as itself, but as the way it manifested in culture, the way it was used. Right. It was an event to watch it. And I still feel that excitement, I guess. So in addition to watching The Wizard of Oz, I rewatched some David Lynch films. Never a problem for me.
Never a problem.
And we read, we're going to be using The Annotated Wizard of Oz by Michael Patrick Hearn as one of our sources. We both, of course, are using the book we talked about last time, Land of Desire. I also read lectures 4 and 5 of William James's The Varieties of Religious Experience. Our reason for that will come clear soon. And Salman Rushdie's essay on The Wizard of Oz that he did for BFI some years ago. Now, there are so many other materials out there. And so we want to apologize in advance if we're missing anything that's already been discussed in other publications or posts or YouTube videos or whatever. When you're talking about David Lynch and The Wizard of Oz, there's a lot out there already. So.
Which was why originally we thought maybe we would not do an episode on it. We were like, oh, we'll do Alice. We see a lot more with Alice, and everybody's already done The Wizard of Oz. But then the more we talked about it, the more we were like, why not? Like, what's wrong with us doing it?
And we do have some thoughts that maybe aren't as conventional or as over discussed at this point.
Right.
And so on that note, I think it's fair to say that we'll minimize our discussion of the low-hanging fruit of the most obvious allusions to Oz and Lynch's work. I mean, it is so much fun to notice and talk about all those things But we know that most of our listeners here are already many, many layers deep into observation and analysis. And you aren't going to be here if you haven't already noticed that a lot of Lynch's characters wear red shoes.
Right.
You aren't listening to this because you want us to point out all of the allusions to Oz and Wild at Heart.
Right.
You've thought about those things.
You've already seen it. You've already noticed. And again, like, I feel like a lot of Lynch fans at this point have seen Lynch Oz, where they cover a lot of that.
They do. I really enjoyed watching those visuals side by side.
Yeah. There were like a handful of things where I was like, you know what? I am so glad that I watched this because I somehow never picked up on that. So thanks for pointing that out.
Well, we're going to start our discussion with the book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, or The Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. And then, of course, we'll transition to the movie and then on to discussion of where we see it in Lynch's films. But The Wizard of Oz, as a book, promoted two major cultural movements that were new in the late 19th, early 20th century. And those were consumerism and mind cure. And so I think throughout our discussion, we've been dancing around the question of whether or not Lynch, who is really inspired by this film and this story, also reflects the values of those movements in his work, or maybe not. Maybe he's remixing the language and the themes of Oz and departing from those ideas to some extent, or maybe completely. And so eventually we'll maybe find an answer to that question.
We shall see.
We're going to see where we go. So we're going to start by talking about consumerism. And I guess consumerism part one, we're going to talk about the pecuniary motive behind the consumerism movement.
In our last episode, we touched on the role that department stores, starting in the late 19th century, played in shaping American culture as we know it. Following the Industrial Revolution, American factories were churning out far more than American people were ready to buy, which is something that still happens today. Manufacturers and merchants had to find a way to move the quickly produced goods piling up in the warehouses. American businesses needed to create demand that did not exist yet. The dominant approach to creating this demand was encouraging Americans to dream. As we said in our last episode, department stores were at the forefront of this new movement. Stunningly beautiful environments, tea rooms, and restaurants, thoughtful amenities, live entertainment, and outstanding service, all of these things made department stores destinations of enjoyment for people of almost every socioeconomic class.
I mean, that was key. Desire needed to diffuse through the whole population.
Right.
Not just the wealthy. They could already purchase everything.
Yeah.
The sociologist Emily Fogg Mead wrote, quote, "We are not concerned with the ability to pay, but with the ability to want and choose." She emphasized the need to appeal to emotion and imagination to turn Americans of all social classes into shoppers.
Department stores sought to remove every care from the shopper. The dry goods economist even advised a step at the entrance is a mistake. No hindrance should be offered to people who may drift into the store, and encouraged merchants to replace swinging doors with revolving ones to further facilitate an easy drifting entrance.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's crazy. I mean, the psychology of like, how can we make sure that people never are deterred from walking through this door? How do we get them right from the sidewalk into the door?
I just love the idea that they would set up beautiful picture windows or beautiful display windows and then lure you into the store and not even a step.
Yeah.
Right? Not even a swinging door to impede your entrance. Well, once inside the store, the comforts and delights escalated. And the more time one spent in the store, the more one was in the hands of the dream makers. As one radio announcer encouraged at a 1923 convention, sell them their dreams. Sell them what they longed for and hoped for and almost despaired of having. Sell them hats by splashing sunlight across them. Sell them dreams, dreams of country clubs and proms and visions of what might happen, if only. After all, people don't buy things to have things. They buy things to work for them. They buy hope. hope of what your merchandise will do for them. Sell them this hope, and you won't have to worry about selling them goods. So again, that emphasis on we will encourage them to dream and hope, and then the selling of merchandise will take care of itself.
Right. Well, I work in a store,
Yeah.
and it is so fascinating how shifting things in a certain way, being like, okay, it's not selling here. If I move it here, it will. And stuff like, we used to not have these lights in the book aisle that we do now that are like underneath the shelves.
Oh, sure.
So they light the books there, and it's literally just since they've been better lit, our book sales increased like crazy.
Isn't that interesting?
It's fascinating. Just think about like how you light a hat or something
I
like that
know,
quote. It's
yeah.
just like, I was like, yeah, how we light the books. Now they sell better.
Well, that aligns perfectly with what William Leach identified in the book Land of Desire.
Yeah.
The subtitle is Merchant's Power and the Rise of a New American Culture. He identified the three main tools of dream design as color, light, and glass.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, again, it's so true. It's just really depending on how you treat the product. It helps customers decide that they want it.
Sure.
It's
You create desire where there was no desire before.
right.
Well, one of the most influential architects of this dream culture at its origin, one of the masters of color, light, and glass was L. Frank Baum. Now, we know Baum best as the author of The Wizard of Oz, but writing children's books was only one part of this man's truly fascinating life.
It was reading the annotated Wizard of Oz. They have like a huge introduction
Yes.
where they really go into depth about his life. And I had no idea that he had so many interests.
And so many areas of expertise.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is, it was like every chapter of his life, he was a new character almost.
right.
And it was fascinating. It started off with like chickens. And then the next thing you
Yes.
know, he's like, I'm a newspaper man now. Now I'm a theater man. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, I think part of it was his upbringing. He
Yeah.
was wealthy and he had
Yeah.
very supportive parents who really nurtured his creativity and curiosity that characterized this whole career.
Right.
I think there's so much here like David Lynch's parents.
I do too. Whenever David was like, hello, I want to be an artist, they were like, okay, so we're going to set you up with like an apprenticeship. Like, we're going to make that happen. And here's the tools you need.
Well, I remember when we did our episode on Good Times on Our Street.
Yeah.
We read a quote where he talked about how tools were so sacred in his family and projects were so valued. And there was a lot of encouragement of that exploration and curiosity. And we definitely see that with Baum too.
Right. They were an oil family. They had a lot of money. And honestly, I think it is so great that, because he was a second son. So he was not expected to take over the oil company. So he had that freedom. But instead, he actively wanted to create things and wanted to build businesses
And pursue curiosity. He's 20 years old when he publishes a book on Hamburg chickens.
Yeah.
20, and it became very popular and influential. He's 24 years old when his father builds him a theater where he could produce his own plays. And then by 1888, he had moved with his wife to Aberdeen, South Dakota, and opened his own store called Baum's Bazaar. There he also started editing the local newspaper. A few years later, he moved to Chicago and became a traveling salesman for a wholesale china and glassware firm. When life on the road and away from his beloved wife and sons became too much, Baum came up with a new idea to earn his living.
Yeah, I mean, life as a traveling salesman had taken Baum to countless stores across the country, and he lamented the missed opportunities he saw in poorly utilized shop windows. Calling on his experiences in both theatrical set design and retail, Baum set to codify the art of window dressing. I mean, that's like the thing. We're talking about color and light and glass. That's crucial in theater. He knew how to make things beautiful because when you are creating sets that you want
Yes.
to be compelling and you want people to really, love the shows you're putting on, that is such a huge part of your stage.
Well, William Leach writes about that so much, the intersection between theater and merchandising, theater and department stores. Early merchants and advertisers and merchandisers were taking all of their lessons from Broadway and from theater.
Well, and so again, also from a young age, he's working on his writing. He was building up this set of skills from a really young age of engaging with writing and also creating through light and color and glass. And it all comes together, right? So in 1897, Baum founded a magazine called The Show Window, which was an enormously influential publication that focused on window displays and forms. It quickly became the official organ of the trade. And the National Association of Window Trimmers was formed at his urging. And this magazine is still in existence today under the name Visual Merchandise and Store Design, or VMSD.
Yes, and in 1900, the same year that The Wizard of Oz was published, another book of Baum's appeared. It was called The Art of Decorating Dry Goods Windows and Interiors. Now, I found this book on Yale University's library's website.
So cool.
It was so comprehensive. It's about color harmony, fonts, storefront design, how to keep your windows clean and free of frost, how to photograph your windows, on and on. I really was stunned by how many topics it covered. It's also incredibly practical and straightforward. The instructions are so detailed on every single thing that he's instructing on. There are tons of diagrams, illustrations, photographs. I have no experience designing show windows, but honestly, Bob made me think I probably could. If I had his book, if I followed his instructions, I could probably do it. There were some really charming things in there. For one, he insists draping is the foundation of the art of window dressing. Ooh. I really liked that strong statement because of how we see it manifest in The Wizard of Oz with the curtain.
Yeah.
And even, of course, in Lynch, right? Yeah. We know that draping is in many ways the foundation of that dressing as well.
Yeah.
He also had lots of instructions for what he called illusion windows. And he provided designs for simple motors and then a whole array of display effects you can create with those motors. Very, very wizard-like.
I bet they would have loved to have had him at Horns.
They
would have loved having him. The demand for Baum's expertise and instruction was in part due to how new the magic materials of light, color, and glass really were. After 1880, the development of artificial colors meant artists had over 1,000 shades to work with, exceeding for the first time the range of colors available in nature. In 1883, plate glass, the kind used for the large show windows that attracted people to department stores, was successfully manufactured in America for the first time.
Here, actually.
Yeah. PPG. Pittsburgh mention. Before this, plate glass had to be imported from France. By 1915, Americans were consuming half the plate glass produced throughout the world.
We were hungry for it.
Yeah.
By 1910, businesses had a range of options for artificial light. So there's that third element. They had gas light, arc light, prismatic light, carbon burning, electrical light, tungsten filament, spotlights, floodlights, etc. Just the options for how to, well, as you described in your own store, lighting those shelves.
Yeah.
Suddenly merchants have the ability to control light.
Yeah.
And it changes everything. So merchants who successfully use these three tools, color, light, and glass, probably through trial and error at first, were able to inspire dreaming. Baum was there to make it into a science.
I mean, it really is a science.
Well, we Americans are still living in the dream world that were created by these materials.
Absolutely.
Film and television inherited the tools of the show window. Color, light, and glass, maybe as camera lenses or the glass screens of televisions, continue to be the basic tools of the dream makers, and they were certainly the tools of David Lynch. Well, it's interesting to see how The Wizard of Oz was directly impacted by its author's experience in this field. Because the Tin Woodman, for example, came from a display that Baum created for a hardware store window. His son, Henry Neil Baum, told the story in a 1965 article by Joseph Haas. Quote, he wanted to create something eye-catching. He made a torso out of a wash boiler, bolted stovepipe arms to it, and used the underside of a saucepan for a face. He topped it with a funnel hat, and what would become the inspiration for the Tin Woodman was born.
And the China country of the book was definitely inspired by Baum's days as a traveling salesman. Interesting, too, that Dorothy experiences the arousal of what Baum called cupidity and a longing to possess when she meets the China princess. She envisions her on Aunt M's mantel shelf, perfect representation of what all these engineers of consumer dream culture were hoping to inspire.
Further evidence of consumerism in the book, or this kind of consumerism, is Dorothy's rebellion against the witch. In the book only occurs when her, quote, pretty shoe is stolen by the witch.
So true.
She doesn't even understand at that point that the silver shoes are powerful.
Right.
She just thinks it's pretty, and she's mad that the witch has taken it.
Right. Well, and that's such a big thing, too, because like I feel like the red shoes are such an iconic image, and a lot of people don't realize that in the books it's silver, but it was like they really wanted them to pop in the color and be more enticing, so they were like, oh, what's gonna like really draw people's attention? Red. And they want to sell you those shoes. They want you to buy the shoes.
And boy, do I want those shoes.
Right.
Doesn't every little girl wants those red shoes?
Yeah, because they want you to want to buy these things. They want you to feel like, well, if I bought that, that could transport me to this magical place too. And that's consumerism, baby.
But I really love that Dorothy, it's not her enslavement by the Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that the lion is tied up in the courtyard or that the Tin Man and the Scarecrow have been nearly destroyed. It's that the witch took her shoe.
Yeah. She's just like,
How dare you? That's my pretty shoe.
Right. They're not even hers.
Well, the importance of color in both the book and the film have a deeper significance than I originally thought. I mean, obviously, to anybody who's seen the film, the color is amazing.
Yeah.
But thinking about it as one of the tools of the advertiser, the merchandiser's trade, color, light, and glass.
Yeah.
Now we really understand how the manipulation of color mattered.
Right.
The book itself was the most colorful children's book ever produced at the time. Baum and his illustrator, W.W. Denslow, personally paid for the creation of those elaborate engraved plates needed to achieve these effects. The extensive color work absolutely revolutionized the design of American children's books. They were never drab again after The Wizard of Oz.
Which we were just talking about. I was just saying to a customer about children's books in our store is that that's like a hallmark of children's books now. Now, any kid's book you see has so many bright colors.
And The Wizard of Oz is the first one to break through that.
Which is
to make that
crazy.
happen.
That's so cool.
And then the film, right? The film is another revolutionary step because it used Technicolor's 3-step process, which was called Process 4, to really dazzling effects. I like the stories about how they needed such bright lighting for that the sets were often 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Which is because of the lights. But the film made color not just a feature, but a narrative device.
Right.
Color is the setting, it's characterization, it's thematic development.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that The Wizard of Oz was shot partially in color.
Yeah.
Color was the point.
Right. Which is such an important part of the storytelling, because in the story it starts off with, like, that's the first glimpse you get. When you first open the book, it's just like Kansas was gray, Aunt Em was gray, like everything is gray there. And he says that over and over again. Everything's so gray, and as he's describing Kansas. And that's like the point, right? Is it's like, here is something so boring, so drab, so gray, and then we burst into this world of color. So cool.
Right. And even with characters like the Wicked Witch, of the West being so green.
Right.
You know, green, that green skin is part of her characterization as well. The green of the Emerald City, you know, is absolutely critical to its setting.
And then we've got the yellow brick road. We've got Glinda being so pink. And I mean, also in the book, they go into a little bit more, again, like with the other worlds and stuff. We've got the Munchkin blue. The Munchkins talk to Dorothy about how they love that she's wearing white and blue because she's wearing her white and blue gingham dress. And they're like, well, white is because you're a good witch, and blue is the Munchkin color, so it's so kind of you to wear that for us because it shows us that you are a good witch for us. Like, you are kind to Munchkins.
Dorothy got pretty lucky.
Yeah, like she was like, I just grabbed a random dress. I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, you dressed for us.
I mean, I don't think anybody would argue that Lynch doesn't do exactly the same thing in his work. That his consciousness and use of color is such an obvious parallel to The Wizard of Oz. He has that painter's approach to filmmaking, and that makes it inevitable. But it really rhymes with Oz and with Baum's work.
Yeah, the deliberate use of black and white in Eraserhead and Elephant Man is so important. Like, especially with Eraserhead, it's like he's trying so hard to convey the oppressive energy and like how like stifled he feels. That really shows that, as opposed to Blue Velvet is so vivid, unbelievably vivid, which we talked about in our Good Times on Our Street episode. Like, that color was so important in that book, and there's so many scenes that really parallel that. He is specifically deliberately using that color to attach it to books like Good Times on Our Street.
To those idyllic images.
Yeah, which again, we wouldn't have these colorful children's books without Wizard of Oz.
Right. There would be no Good Times on Our Street.
Right.
I like that his first idea for Blue Velvet, you know, when he's catching those ideas, it was red lips, you know, so it was vividly colorful. And the song Blue Velvet. Yeah. Even the character, the yellow man in Blue Velvet is characterized by his color.
Right.
I even noticed on rewatching Inland Empire for today's episode that it starts in black and white, and then the Lost Girl comes up in vivid color there. And similarly, I rewatched Mulholland Drive as well. The dancers at the beginning, the jitterbug dancers, they're in sepia.
Yeah.
I don't think I noticed it before because of that vivid purple background.
Right.
But that is they are all sepia toned, like at the beginning of The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And then we come up into that beautiful Los Angeles color.
Which, like, she does have such a Dorothy quality to her.
Oh, for sure.
Because, yeah, it's like she's, like, coming from her small town into this bright, colorful world where it's, like, so adventurous. And she's so, like, earnest and trusting and hopeful and, you know, kind of vanilla.
Well,
like
sure.
Dorothy.
And the beginning of that film is so brilliantly colored.
Right.
And then after the Club Silencio scene, there is definitely a grayness.
Right. And there is so much color in that scene. It's like, it's this, like, final gasp of, like, bright color. Bright, vivid colors.
Yeah. So I think, like The Wizard of Oz, the color is part of the storytelling.
Definitely. The
second part of consumerism that we want to talk about, though, this is just the nuts and bolts of it. This is the money motive. Now we want to talk about the idealism, because I have to say I think this is something that really surprised me, that the consumerism movement, when it began, was so idealistic. And there was a genuine belief that we were entering a better age of humanity, and that consumerism was going to produce better versions of human beings.
Right. We thought it would save us.
We really did.
Instead, it's destroyed the world.
Robert Ogden, who was John Wanamaker's business partner, he said of the retail business that, quote, it added to the sum of human happiness by increasing the power of money to supply the comforts of life. We got unprecedented material comfort and delight in both public and private spaces. I mean, those spectacle fantasies of theater came into stores and restaurants. Homes were decorated with those principles in mind. But it was beyond material comfort. These things were supposed to morally improve us. It was going to make society and individual people better humans.
Yeah. I mean, I think, because I could see how this could potentially work. I think about, my friend works for Starbucks, and she'll like hop around to different stores. And she was talking about how at one point she got stationed at a store in a pretty wealthy neighborhood in Pittsburgh. And I as soon as she said it, I was like, oh, were they awful to you? Like, did they not tip, and were they mean and stuff? And she was like, no, these were like nice rich people. She was like, what I've learned is it's like, there are some people where they're like, no, money and things have actually made me just perfectly happy, and I'm going to be nice to people.
Well, that would make these early dream architects very happy. That at least some people have benefited from their thoughts. Because in addition to things like color, light, and glass convincing people that they needed to buy things, Paul Scheerbart in the early 20th century stated that he believed, quote, colored glass destroys hatred. They really thought that these beautiful places, these atmospheres that they were creating, would help erase ugliness and pain from human existence. We would take a human life that was, short and brutish, and change it into something full of delight and joy through consumerism.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really just about making money.
Yeah.
It was about creating a better world and better people. William Lynch says, quote, in the world of goods, at least, men and women could find transformation, liberation, a paradise free from pain and suffering, a new eternity in time. So they could find what an historian of religion has called being through having, the good through the goods. So you can become a better person through possessing these material comforts.
I mean, the thing is, like, we still live by that. You're always getting articles or email blasts or whatever that are like, hey, don't you think you'd be happier if you had this item? Like, don't you think that if you had this little thing, if you buy this little thing, and we've talked about it before. I'm a little treat girl. I'm a Moromi girl. I will buy little treats to make myself happy.
But that's motivated by wanting you to spend the money.
Yeah.
These early consumerists believed wholeheartedly that you would become the better person.
Right.
So it's hard to do, but we almost have to try in order to inhabit their perspective. We have to divorce ourselves from the modern cynicism that we have, where we know for sure that we're just being manipulated so that we will part with our money.
Yeah.
And they really believed it. The economist Simon Patten, his economic theory was hugely influential at this time. He believed that this increased consumption was going to lead to less desire, that human beings would reach an equilibrium, society would reach an equilibrium. We'd be purified of all the negative character traits that desire leads to. Greed in the wealthy and this like slavish devotion to the wealthy and the poor. And he thought that corporations were morally superior to individual capitalists because they encouraged cooperation instead of competition. So the more we consume, according to this theory, the less we desire, because we can quickly satisfy those desires through more and more consumption. And so then we will become better people. We will be purged of all these negative traits of desire. Obviously, that has not happened.
No, it's just like, I think it's like I can almost maybe see what they were trying to go for. And then it has just gone down this like dark path that keeps getting darker.
Right. So when we talk about The Wizard of Oz as a consumerist text, we want to emphasize that it had this sincere belief in people becoming better through this process.
Yeah.
A better world. It also really influenced the way children were seen.
Yeah.
So there is a genuine belief that this consumerism is a force for good. It then should also shape how we see and train children. in the early 20th century, a focus on developing consumer habits in children, it became more important than teaching them moral character and restraint. So if you remember when we talked about Good Times on Our Street and how it reflected the values of the 20th century, we contrasted it with poor Rollo,
Yeah.
who was being lectured by his father for every little childish mistake.
Right.
And we talked about how David Lynch's childhood was so much this childhood of Good Times on Our Street, where children were valued and protected, but allowed to explore and follow their curiosity, and they weren't lectured or abused by adults, where they were kind of honored.
Yeah, it wasn't as restrictive. I mean, like, yeah, he talked so fondly of being able to go out with his friends and adventure and explore and have crazy times.
And that is a childhood shaped by consumerism. Because that's how we started raising children, because of the consumer movement, which is super interesting to me.
Yeah. And meanwhile, nowadays, it's like I'll be at work and there's kids throwing screaming tantrums because their parents won't buy them the toy they want.
Well, The Wizard of Oz was so wrapped up with the idealism of this consumer movement. It's a literary work that's completely unapologetically absorbed in it. It wasn't co-opted by advertisers. It was born and bred in that environment.
Yeah.
I think we can see The Wizard of Oz interacting with consumer culture on a bunch of levels.
Yeah, the text itself reflects consumerist values and principles. The book was an enormous commercial success at the time when children were being identified as a distinct demographic to be targeted by retailers.
The Wizard of Oz became part of a marketing strategy. So department stores started featuring the characters, scenes, live shows. The integration of the characters into Christmas wasn't accidental because they were popular. Christmas was, as we know it now, was mostly a creation of department stores.
Yeah.
The Christmas celebrations. And so that was all part of how Christmas was celebrated, bringing the Wizard of Oz in.
And then the film, when it eventually made it to TV, was like the Super Bowl for advertising to children. That's like how you were kind of saying earlier. It was like a whole event, a whole ritual.
Yeah, and it became part of selling things to kids.
Yeah.
Put on commercials during The Wizard of Oz.
Which, again, we are seeing in this resurgence because of Wicked. It's like, you know, all these little kids are going to want their Glinda dresses and their Elphaba dresses. And, well, and also the movies, they dropped the movies. Like, it was, you know, 2 parts. And I think both were ones where they dropped it around Christmas-ish. It was like November, I think. And like all of that's intentional too, because they want it to have enough time to marinate in their minds so that when Christmas comes around, what do the kids want? They're going to say, well, we saw Wicked last month and that's what I want. I want Wicked stuff. I want the shoes. I want the dresses. I want wands. I want stuffed animals. I want dolls, you know. And then it also gives the stores that amount of time, like about a month, to really market the heck out of those.
So The Wizard of Oz wasn't co-opted
No.
by toy manufacturers. It was
No.
born for this.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
was. Other places that we see these consumeristic values in The Wizard of Oz, the original book, I think is in where the companions keep dreaming of possessing what they believe they don't have. Of course, right? So there's that dreaming. They want, the Scarecrow wants brains, the Tin Woodsman wants a heart, and so forth. What they eventually receive are material objects that unlock that innate potential.
That they've always had inside of them.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing, is it's like from the get-go, as soon as these different characters get added into her little posse, the more interactions we have with them, the more we see they already have all of those qualities.
Yes.
Like one of the first things with the Tin Man is he starts crying because he's like worried about stepping on bugs, I think.
Yes.
And he's like, oh no, and he's crying, and it's like, buddy, you have a heart. I promise. We're constantly reminded throughout the book that they already possess these things, but it's not until they have the physical object that they go, oh, I do have that now. I do have that. I do.
It's owning the material object, the possession that they have dreamed about. That is what unlocks that potential within them. Well, another thing that definitely reflects consumerism is the idea of the benevolent humbug at the center of the universe. Color, light, and glass are the artifices that induce dreaming, but that dreaming makes you a better person, and that is the wizard. He is in the Emerald City. He has created the illusion. In the book, the people of Emerald City are wearing green glasses. Like nothing there is actually green, perhaps.
Right. I know.
He's created this illusion, and it has made their city better. It has made them better. He is like the advertiser.
Yeah.
At the middle of this.
Right. Yeah, he's selling all these things to them. He's building this world that they want to dream about, this world that they want to inhabit.
Well, the film The Wizard of Oz comes out after the Depression. And so I think it's going to reflect consumerism a little bit differently, but it still definitely retains a lot of this. Did you ever notice that in the film, the Emerald City is a kind of utopian society where nobody apparently needs to work?
Yeah.
Like they even have this song about how like we wake up at noon and get to work at 1, take an hour for lunch, and then at 2 we're done.
Which, like, I wish.
Yeah, but then there are definitely people working there.
Right, because they're getting all spruced up in the salon and stuff. Yeah.
My literal child brain was always confused by that.
Yeah.
But one thing I did notice on this viewing is that there is only one stressed out worker, and we could argue that it is the wizard himself in 4 different roles.
Right.
Because it's the same actor.
Right. He's just running around and they just change his makeup a little bit or change his outfit, but it's the same guy.
So he's the wizard. Frank Morgan is the wizard. He's...
Especially when he's at the door, he's like so stressed out.
Who
He's
rang
like,
that bell?
I know, he's like, the bell!
He's driving the horse of a different color, buggy, and he's the guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only stressed person is the wizard himself. Everyone
Because
else...
he's working so hard to maintain all of it. He's like, I'm the busiest man alive.
So good.
Good man, bad wizard.
Yeah. The other thing the film does differently from the book is it really has a greater emphasis on the no place like home thing. And I think that also reflects a change in consumer culture. Herbert Hoover, starting in the 1920s as Commerce Secretary and then later as president, he had this emphasis on the single family home away from the urban center. And so and this idea was interrupted, obviously, by the Depression, but it really roared back after World War II. So every individual home was going to become a paradise or haven through the objects that you buy for it.
Right.
So go to the department store, buy all these lovely home furnishings, and make your home a wonderland.
Right.
Make your physical home Oz. Make it the best place you could possibly be.
Well, I mean, thinking back to our last episode, like, I remember being so fascinated by the fact that Horns would have display homes for you to walk through so that they could show you this is what your home could look like if you buy all these things from us.
And they called them dream cottages.
Yeah. They were like, this is the dream. Don't you want it? And this is how you get it. You buy it from us.
Well, and in the case of the department store, that was what undid them.
Yeah.
Because as people moved away from urban centers, those grand old department stores did close.
Yeah.
So as we found there was no place like home, we didn't need the department stores anymore.
Yeah. Because they were like that third space. They were like that other kind of home space almost. Like, and once people were like, oh, yeah, I don't need that. It's like, okay, well, then now they're gone.
Mm-hmm. We are going to talk about how David Lynch's work might or might not speak this Oz language of consumerism. But before we do that, we're just going to touch on the other movement that influenced The Wizard of Oz. And then we'll talk about Lynch as a reflection of both of these. And so we're going to talk about the mind cure movement.
So we in the 21st century obviously harbor no utopian illusions about the impacts of consumerism on our individual lives, culture, and planet. But another philosophical foundation of The Wizard of Oz continues in other iterations to resonate in our culture. This is what William James in The Varieties of Religious Experience called the mind cure movement or New Thought.
Mind cure was a broad label for a large number of specific religious sects of diverse origins. Christian Science, Theosophical Societies, the Unity Church, the Church of Divine Science, for example, all fell under the umbrella of Mind Cure.
Frank Baum and his wife both joined the Ramayana Theosophical Society in Chicago in 1892. Theosophy shaped Baum's worldview and inevitably his storytelling. While one can read The Wizard of Oz as a specifically theosophical text, we're going to focus on shared characteristics of the broader Mind Cure movement.
William James called Mind Cure in 1902 America's only original contribution to the systematic philosophy of life. It's really fitting that this philosophy then would be incorporated into the first American fairy tale, The Wizard of Oz. So some of the principles of the Mind Cure movement are what we're going to talk about next. And again, this is coming from William James. Well, the first characteristic of it is that it is spiritual and philosophical, but it's also very hands-on and practical.
It was also really about optimism and positive mindset leading to physical and mental health and healing.
Yeah, they believed in the conquering efficacy of courage, hope, and trust. You were not allowed to complain about the weather, for example, if you were a Mind Cure person.
And going hand in hand with that, there's also this correlative contempt for doubt, fear, worry, and all nervously precautionary states of mind.
Again, to quote James, right? Yeah, fear was considered a primitive emotion that works against us in the civilized world. It is, to quote James, the mark of the beast for mind curers. In Christianity, disobedience is the essential vice, but in Mind Cure, it's fear.
There's also a big focus on the unconscious and subconscious. The subconscious is already one with the divine without any miracle of grace or abrupt creation of a new inner man. But it feels very similar to Lynch's view of meditation, this ocean of pure bliss consciousness.
It's just waiting there for you.
Yeah.
And as in Lynch's telling, as soon as you start meditating, you have access to it.
Yeah, lots of things in Mind Cure sound kind of like the unified field idea in TM.
Well, there is a recognition in Mind Cure of evil as empirically present, but Mind Cure wasn't interested in it. It's not something to worry over as a mystery or a problem. To quote James, the idea is don't reason about it. Give it a glance and pass beyond. It is something merely to be outgrown and left behind, transcended and forgotten. So evil exists, but it is not worth our contemplation.
Yeah, another quote, pessimism leads to weakness, optimism leads to power.
I mean, I think in all of this, we really see the roots of some current New Age ideas.
Yeah.
Manifestation, as something people talk about a lot now, is more or less described in Mind Cure texts from the early 20th century.
Yeah. I mean, well, so I'm really into robotic affirming and manifesting. Yeah.
I don't know what robotic affirming is.
It's basically having a mantra that you kind of repeat again and again, but specifically a positive one, or things that you hope for yourself. And the idea is that the more that you affirm it, the more likely it is to come true. Mostly I got into it because I really, really struggle with a lot of anxiety and depression, and it's really hard for me to stay positive sometimes.
Sure.
And so having a system in place to almost force myself to stay hopeful and believe that there's a reason to keep living has honestly really changed my life. But I remember the first time that I brought it up to my therapist, and I was like, yeah, I'm really into manifesting right now. I'm really into this robotic affirming and everything. And she was like, Indigo, this is cognitive behavioral therapy. And I've been trying to she was like, honestly, I don't care. She was like, I don't care. If it gets you to engage with it, great.
Oh, so she saw a parallel between what you were doing and cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. She was like, this is exactly what I've been trying to get you to do. Stay positive and reframe things and stuff like that. And she was like, I've been trying to get you to do this, but you know what? If you want to see it through this lens and that's how it works for you, thank God, at least you're doing it.
Well, I'm really interested in that because now here I am thinking that Mind Cure really just informed our kind of spiritual movements of the late 20th, early 21st centuries, but maybe it's also in our psychology.
I think probably. I mean, when we think about psychology and how you might be trying to treat depression, anxiety, other disorders, things like that, it's a lot of these tools are really focused on trying to change your mindset about things, trying to reframe things. I kind of get it. It's like, I kind of get mind care. It's like,
Yes.
okay, so you let a little bit of bad and you let it consume you. Or you say, hey, okay, so one bad thing happened. That doesn't mean my whole day was bad. That's where I really struggle. And so it's like reminding myself, like, no, I'm having a good day. I am having a good day. Good things do happen to me. It's just that one bad thing happened, and that does not define my whole day. I will be blindly optimistic. If it's the one thing that saves me, I will try so hard to not fall into that pit of sadness.
Well, we were both motivated by David Lynch to become meditators ourselves and to take the TM course. And I know we both recently re-listened to Catching the Big Fish.
Yeah, which was coincidentally so great.
Yeah. And I couldn't help but notice in Lynch's language there so many kind of different incarnations of mind cure ideas when he talks about that ocean of pure bliss consciousness and the ease of access to it, that all you have to do is meditate and then you're suddenly put in contact with this bliss. Negativity and anger and fear just disappear. I know he describes it as like a suffocating rubber clown suit.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And that the more you meditate, the more this just fades away.
Right.
So it's not that you have to wrestle yourself out of the clown suit. It just disappears gradually. That the idea in meditation that we're tapping into innate power through our subconscious, so resonant with mind cure.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like, again, like letting the negativity pass by you, like not letting it get its hold on you, because it's not that you don't even need to actively fight against it. It's more just like holding on to the positive. It's not like you're saying, I'm not unhappy. You're saying, I am happy.
I couldn't help but connect a little bit of Wizard of Oz with transcendental meditation, though. And this is because of a story that Lynch told about taking a course from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, where he paid $1 million for an enlightenment course, I think it was, maybe in the Netherlands. I could be getting some of the details wrong. But he was, that's so much money. And we know that he was not a super rich filmmaker.
I mean, like, he had money, but not
$1 million to burn.
No.
But it was important to him. So he did this. Yeah. And that Maharishi never actually appeared at this $1 million enlightenment course. That he was upstairs of where the participants were, and he spoke to them through a television. Yeah. And Lynch said that originally he was disappointed by this, but of course, being who he is.
Yeah, he stayed positive about it.
He stayed positive, and then he realized it was perfect, as it was exactly what it should have been. I'm less, perhaps, optimistic than Lynch was on it, and I see that as such a Wizard of Oz moment.
No, it is. It's like, do not look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Here is how I've chosen to present myself to you.
Through color, light, and glass.
Yeah.
Literally through a screen.
It's just a screen. It's just a performance. Yeah. And $1 million is a lot of money.
And so, even though we're both meditators, I don't think either of us is absorbed into the TM organization.
No, it's more like I love what meditating does for me.
Yes.
I think meditating is incredibly wonderful. I think a lot of the people that I don't know about everybody, but like we can only speak so highly of Marty, who instructed us both, because he was wonderful. He is so lovely. Saw him on Twin Peaks Day. Absolute angel. We love Marty. And so it's almost jarring, I think, when you're like, oh, some of like the higher up people in this organization are actually yikes.
Yeah.
And like maybe like more in line with like Jeff Bezos than like I don't, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's kind of how that story reads. Yeah.
I agree. And I thought about it, though, in terms of meditation as if the Wizard of Oz is the humbug at the center of the universe, it doesn't matter that he's a humbug.
Yeah.
Because the effect that humbuggery has produced in people has been valuable.
Right.
Or the characters of the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And so I see the same thing with TM and Lynch.
Yeah.
It didn't matter for Lynch that Maharishi didn't appear in person because the personal benefit that he gets out of the experience of meditating every day for decades and from joining this enlightenment course, yes, that all negated whatever falseness perhaps could be read at the center of it. I like that personally too. I'm a person who tends to get kind of caught up on skepticism sometimes. And so, yeah, if the humbug is at the middle of the universe, maybe it's still a benevolent one.
Right.
Or it can have positive effects.
Right. I like that because it is like there are so many things like that where it's like maybe it's actually quite messy in there, but it doesn't necessarily negate the good that it's doing. You hear that a lot with nonprofits. Like you hear that all the time that like I've had so many friends work in nonprofits and I'll be like, oh, what a great organization. And they're like, well, you should know that like
Pay
it's
no
actually
attention to the man behind the
right.
curtain.
They're like, you should see what's happening behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I'm like, that's so sad. And they're like, but I am proud of the work that we do.
Yeah.
Like I am proud that we can support this community or whatever, or, you know, do this good in the world. And that's why they stay, you know, that's like the thing. It's like, well, why do you stay in this job if the system is so corrupt? And they're like, well, at the end of the day, the boots on the ground are doing good work.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, both the book, The Wizard of Oz, and the film reflect and promote mind cure in really obvious ways. So the optimism that's important to mind cure is all over Dorothy.
Yeah.
Right? I think more than maybe any other personality trait, optimism is her number one.
Right. And again, like that's where she contrasts so much with Alice because Alice is like, I'm going to cry, I'm going to yell, I'm going to kick stuff. Like Alice is she's got such a broad range of emotions.
And Dorothy is just hopeful and sunshiny and optimistic throughout. She has some lapses of fear and such, but for the most part, like about her quest, about the nature of these companions she meets and the wizard, like they are good. They're going to be good.
Well, and like I think like as she adds again, you know, these different members to her little group, she's like always saying to them, she's like, I bet the wizard can help you too.
Oh, he must.
Yeah, he must. There's no question in her mind that she's like, well, I'm going. You should come too because he's going to help all of us. She's certain.
Yes. And even Somewhere Over the Rainbow, it's such a deeply optimistic and hopeful anthem.
Yes.
Even outside of the context of The Wizard of Oz, it's been used to signify hope and optimism.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another perfect example of this enduring quality of The Wizard of Oz is like that song has touched so many other things at this point. Mm-hmm.
Well, just as we said with consumerism, the idea that the inner power is already there and available instantly if one opens to them, that is clearly part of mind cure. Yeah. Now, because it's a mix of mind cure and consumerism, it takes an object for us to unlock that power. But mind cure people believed that we were already surrounded by all of these good things. We just needed to turn our faces toward them. It was as easy as that. A quote from Henry Wood was, spiritual sunshine will flow in as naturally as air inclines to vacuum. So this transformation will be instant, and we see that in The Wizard of Oz with the companions. The second they get those objects, they are different. There's no gradual change. It is immediate. So it's like their shallower conscious selves are the voices that were telling them that they lacked these things. Once those voices are quiet, boom, the things are there. They have courage, they have intelligence, they have hearts. Yeah. Similarly with Dorothy,
Of course.
as soon as she knows she can go home, as soon as she knows how to use that power, she's gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, that's like a classic thing that people attribute to the Wizard of Oz is that concept of like these characters always had this power. They just didn't know it, but it was always inside of them.
And that's because Frank Baum was a mind cure guy. And this is a mind cure text. It is promoting mind cure ideas. Yeah. Well, I think also on the idea of mind cure is the nature of fear. And that's a little different in the book than in the film.
Definitely.
In the book, the witch, so the Witch of the West, her power is gone by the time Dorothy meets her. She's used the flying monkeys the last time. The Winkies are still enslaved to her, though, because they're afraid of her. It's only their fear that is keeping them enslaved. She has no actual ability to harm them anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, like, the Cowardly Lion is, like, so characterized by his fear that he has, and, like, that's what he's looking for is that courage. That's what he wants. And he's had this courage in him all the time, but this fear is a lie he tells himself. He's afraid in opposition of his true nature.
Yeah, he is not the Cowardly Lion.
No.
he is actually quite brave.
Yeah.
But it is his fear of his own cowardice.
Right.
If that's a thing.
Yeah.
He is
I think
afraid
so.
of being afraid.
Yeah.
And so therefore he behaves in a way that is not who he is.
Right.
Dorothy is always safe in the book because the Witch of the North has kissed her. And so children who are reading The Wizard of Oz know that Dorothy will never be harmed.
Yeah.
So Frank Baum wasn't interested in scaring children.
Right.
He wanted a book that would delight them and kind of interest them, but that they wouldn't ever have to worry about Dorothy's safety. She's always protected, even if she doesn't know it.
Right.
We, the readers, the children, know it.
Well, I mean, in the introduction in the book, he kind of talks about how he wants this to be like fun and not fearful. He goes on and stuff, but at the end he says, having this thought in mind, the story of the wonderful Wizard of Oz was written solely to pleasure children of today. It aspires to being a modernized fairy tale in which the wonderment and joy are retained and the heartaches and nightmares are left out.
Yes. So The Wizard of Oz was not meant to frighten children in its original incarnation.
Yeah.
But the film is pretty scary.
I remember watching it as a kid and like genuinely I was so scared of the flying monkeys. I was so scared of them.
And the witch is frightening.
Yeah.
I remember the Mr. Rogers episode where Margaret Hamilton was invited on as a guest.
Right.
Specifically because Fred Rogers knew that children were so afraid of the witch. And so she came on in regular clothes, talked about her character, put on the costume. Again, Fred Rogers, so emotionally intelligent, but there to show children that this is a character.
Right.
That does seem different from the original intent of The Wizard of Oz, but I love it.
Well, that was one of the things that I thought was really fun that I took away from Lynch Oz was the John Waters portion was really fun. And I remember him saying that he used to write letters to her because he loved that character. She just seemed like a really nice lady who then devoted so much of her life to showing people that she was kind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, it was like, I mean, in John Waters' case, he liked her character. He was like, I love a villain. But like, for the people that were scared of her, she worked really hard to be like, no, it's okay. Like, you're safe. I promise. And I think that that's in line with the book then, that she recognized Baum's vision of it being overall a safe story. And I think that she was a great steward for that role then.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And she also played the part of Miss Gulch.
Yes.
And on this viewing, I noticed at the beginning that, you talked before about Dorothy's response to her threat to having Toto destroyed at the beginning and Judy Garland's acting there. But, that's a genuine menace.
Yeah.
That is very frightening to have your beloved companion, your pet, killed.
Like, that's horrifying.
It really is. And, that's unresolved at the end of the film. there is no promise that Toto is safe at the end of the film.
Yeah, we never get any resolution about that.
Right. So there are a lot of things in the film that are disturbing. And that's so different. You know, the witch in the film is pursuing Dorothy and her companions.
Yeah.
But not in the book.
Right.
I like in the book how she's just minding her own business.
Right.
and then Dorothy and the companions come marching along to kill her.
Right.
She doesn't care about them.
Yeah.
Until they show up to disturb her peace.
I mean, I think that's where like Wicked is so interesting because like it is that like she like had her whole own life. She was kind of just minding her business and then everybody came after her.
So more reflective of Baum's vision.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the nature of evil in the original book, I think, is very interesting too in terms of mind cure. That the power of evil ends when fear is gone. So as soon as Dorothy is no longer afraid of the witch, she's annoyed that she took her shoe and she flings some water at her, boom, it's over.
Literally, so fast.
The Winkies would also be free from the witch's power if they were not afraid of her.
Yeah.
Like, we see this over and over in the book, The Wizard of Oz, that fear is the trap.
Yeah.
And evil leaves no residual mark. So one thing that Salman Rushdie notes in his essay is that Munchkinland is unscarred by the supposed tyranny of the witch. When Dorothy shows up, it's not like the scourging of the Shire in The Lord of the Rings or something. Like, Munchkinland is wholesome and colorful and healthy and everybody's like happy.
Yeah.
Once the presence of wickedness is gone, there is no scar, there is no mark. It's that immediate grace that Mind Cure promises.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and then tying it back to the movie, like, what a huge scene that is. All the dancing and singing and color and joy. They're like, yippee!
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Nobody's
traumatized.
No, nobody's bothered. Everybody's just absolutely delighted.
All right, so we've got consumerism, we've got Mind Cure, we've talked about it in The Wizard of Oz, and now we want to talk about just David Lynch. And the one place we seem to see all of these influences from The Wizard of Oz is in the character of Dr. Amp in The Return.
Even just down to his glasses, that was something that we noticed because in The Wizard of Oz, when they in the book, when they really confront the wizard and they catch him in the act and everything, he admits to them that he convinced everybody in Oz to make the Emerald City and everything, but it's not green. It's just, he's like, nope, it's just, he admits to them, he's like, it's just a normal city, but I make sure everyone wears these green glasses, and it's been so long that at this point, everyone has forgotten and just believes that it's just green. He just has them wear glasses that have green glass in them. And Jacoby, like every time we've seen him, has the red and blue glasses. Like he is actively creating the color, light, and glass of his world.
He's choosing to see the world that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and by the time we see him in Twin Peaks The Return, he is so Wizard of Oz-like.
Yes.
He's living up in his trailer in the mountains, and he's broadcasting these videos or this vlog he's doing. And he has these very primitive effects that he's orchestrating behind him, you know, lights and sounds and the little Statue of Liberty with the light box in it. It's very hokey, but it's so much like the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Winding all of his
gears
and his
everything.
gears.
Yeah, it's very like theatrical, kind of silly, over the top. And it like, I mean, it is just like when they pull aside the curtain in the movie and he's there cranking on all of his levers and stuff, and he's just like, oh, don't look over here. Pay no attention.
But then on the consumerism side, so he's doing the whole wizard, you know, light and glass thing, but he's selling something.
Yeah, he's one of the only characters we see selling a non-essential item, like really pushing it. You know, because of course we've got like the diner, but like food is a necessity.
Yeah.
But he is one of the only characters that's like, I'm selling an item that you should buy. And again, it's something that's totally non-essential. It's something that like no one really needs a golden shovel.
Well, and it's a complete humbug.
Yeah.
We watch the whole process of the shovels being delivered, the shovels being painted, and even when he advertises them, he doesn't pretend they're anything but painted shovels.
Right.
He's like 2 coats.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it's like he is actively like, he's like, you want this. You want this, and this can change things for you, you know, shovel yourself out. And like that is so Wizard of Oz. It's this idea of if you have this physical item, you're probably already doing this or have the capability to do this.
Yeah.
But until I give you this physical item, you can't.
It's an undisguised humbug, though.
Yeah.
He isn't pretending. It's like here's your heart, here's your diploma. You know, the things the wizard gives to the companions. It's like, here's your golden shovel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I've painted. Yeah. And the pride of place that golden shovel gets in Nadine's shop window shows that it affects a genuine transformation.
Yeah.
So he may be selling it as a humbug, but it works.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because again, it has that same effect as the wizard giving tangible objects. In the book and the movie, they're slightly different objects, but it's like him giving them these physical, tangible objects somehow just like elevates their minds in a way that they're able to like access this power that they didn't have before, or that they thought they didn't have, but it's always been within them.
And that's what happens to Nadine too.
Yeah.
You know, the wizard is a humbug.
Yeah.
But the transformation is real.
Yeah.
The impact that he has is real. So like Nadine's inner power is unlocked because of Dr. Amp, because of this wizard and the object that he advertises.
Right.
You know? And it's fitting then that she carries it with her when she goes to free Ed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it gives her that sort of level up almost.
Mm-hmm. So what I like about how it fits with the Wizard of Oz is that the Wizard of Oz seems to try to make us comfortable with a post-truth world. Like that, there's a humbug at the center of the universe. Yeah. But when you discover it, you won't be disillusioned. You're going to be enlightened.
Right.
You're going to be improved by the whole experience.
Yeah.
It's like when you realize there's no Santa Claus.
Right.
You don't go through life shattered because of that. You're enriched by the experience of having believed.
Right. No, that's such a great connection. And like, I think too, it's so interesting because the book does have like more than the movie does. Like it goes further, and you see them and the effects afterwards. And it's so interesting that the lion has this moment where he comes into this jungle and like sees all of these other animals that have been just absolutely debilitated by fear of this like spider monster. And the cowardly lion, all of a sudden he's like, oh, let me see this thing. Let me take it. Let me check this out. And he sees this spider monster and just like immediately dispatches it. Like he's like, it's like he does like one swipe and it's done. And he's totally fearless the whole time. Like he now has accepted that the fear has no power over him, and because of that he's unstoppable. And like that's so mind cure.
And that's like Nadine is no longer afraid of abandonment. She's no longer afraid of being alone without Ed.
Right.
And so she is liberated from fear too.
Yeah, which I think is so, I feel like this discussion is making me, not that I didn't already like, have an interest in or like appreciate her character, but I think I have like a newfound interest and delight in her character because like I think that makes so much sense because she in the original series is like one of the most like chaotic, unhinged characters.
Right.
Like she does some of the craziest stuff that we see, and she like, I think to so many people she's such a joke.
Yeah.
So then isn't that so beautiful that she has that kind of mind cure moment, that like she's always had that, but because of various things in her life, she was like unable to access it, or
Right.
thought that she couldn't access it. And then she has this like freeing moment of receiving that physical object in the same way that these characters, these beloved characters in The Wizard of Oz, have that moment when she gets it, and that kind of unlocks that for her.
And yet, because it is such a perfect example of consumerism, she has purchased it.
Yeah. And again, it's like such a not essential item.
Yes.
It is like such a like, nobody needs this.
Nobody needs silent drape runners either.
No, that's the thing. It's like they're like the two of the only characters that are selling something, and like a physical item. And it's such an item that nobody needs that. They're creating a demand for an item that no one needs.
They're encouraging us to dream about a world where our drapes don't make noise.
Yeah.
And where we have painted shovels.
Right, and how these could change our lives.
Yeah. So they find each other.
Right, like they've obviously got this kind of like similar way of like seeing the world and moving through it, and they're able to get to connect through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is truly our most perfect example of these forces coming together. I think in Lynch's work, though, we see so many other resonances of maybe the idealism of consumerism and the mind cure thing in other Lynch texts.
Yeah, we don't see, like, I mean, like with Lynch, you're not going to see necessarily the effects of like consumerism and capitalism that you necessarily do with like other Hollywood productions. Like there's so many things in media where there's like so much product placement or stuff like that, and like Lynch is never really trying to sell us anything. I think the places where we're seeing it are really more rather the effects of consumerism on society. Like he's not trying to force anything, but the mind cure we see in a lot of stuff, and I think that we could easily fall down a rabbit hole of just like listing every time we see it in any pieces of his work. But two that we really wanted to bring up were Mulholland Drive and of course Wild at Heart. Like of course we have to touch on that, but Mulholland Drive was one that when Hilary brought this to me, she was like, what do you think about this? And I was like, I have chills right now. Like as she was describing it, I was like, wait, I have goosebumps.
Well, with that kind of an intro. I mean, what I noticed is that the cowboy's speech in Mulholland Drive really captures an essential sentiment of mind cure. And that's when he says, a man's attitude goes some ways the way his life will be. Is that something you might agree with? That's a mind cure statement.
It's so mind cure. It's the idea of like, you control your destiny based on your attitude, based on how you approach these situations. If you're going to look at these situations through a lens of fear rather than a lens of like empowerment,
pessimism
or pessimism, like that's going to control you. And so then you started talking about, well, what about like with Betty and Diane? Like they're two sides of the same coin, and like people make that connection all the time, but a lot of people look at it through a lens of, oh, well, Diane is the real, right?
Yes.
And
Betty is the fantasy.
Yeah, but what if that's not what's going on? What if we are just being shown two different paths? What if you follow the mind cure versus what if you don't?
So in that case, it would be a woman's attitude goes some ways the way her life will be. And so if Betty is optimistic and fearless, then her life is what we see at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
If the other version, if Diane is pessimistic and fearful and has reduced her life to this kind of small gray thing, then that's what you get.
Right.
So rather than be like reality versus fantasy, this cowboys scene could just kind of like be the hinge,
Right.
that shows us what's happening in Mulholland Drive potentially.
Yeah. Okay. So why I built it up so much is like why I'm getting chills and goosebumps was because as you were describing it, I'm just like replaying so many scenes in my head and just through this lens, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, I'm filtering it all back through and going, that and the ooh. Like because
Like which ones? Which scenes?
because I was thinking about Betty's audition scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because so much of Mulholland Drive revolves around what Hollywood does to women.
Yeah.
And how it treats them and situations that they're put in and how it affects them and the trauma that they carry from it. And so that scene is so fascinating because she is such a Dorothy figure. She's got such like a purity about her. And like one big thing with The Wizard of Oz is that Dorothy's never sexualized. It's never a threat. It's never something looming in any way. Like any of the interactions she's having with male characters, there's no threat of her being in danger or harmed by them in that way.
Not a bit. Not even a hint of it. And we've both said that there are plenty of moments where we're worried about Dorothy.
Right, because in the back of our minds,
Yeah.
being in this society, we're like, oh, this could go this way.
Yeah, don't go into Professor Marvel's. No, don't do that, Dorothy.
Yeah, we're like, don't go into a weird, strange man's like caravan or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like nothing ever happens.
No.
Nothing ever happens. But so like Betty, you know, again, we see a lot of similarities with her and Dorothy's character of like her optimism and her joy and her trust in people and that kind of purity. And so the thing is, like, with that audition scene, it's so slimy.
Yeah.
But she comes out of it unmarred.
She triumphs.
Yeah. Like, she's so powerful in it because she does not let the fear overtake her in any way. She just, like, because the fear has no power over her, no real harm can come to her, is, like, kind of the sense you get.
Yes.
Like, it's not like she walks, like, I mean, personally, if I was in a situation like that, I think I would walk out of the audition and, like, go sit in my car and cry.
Yes.
Like, I think I would, like, go take a long shower. But she comes out of that audition triumphed, and like it's like she is the girl, she is the one, because she is just, again, she's untouched by fear, really.
I 100% agree. And look at it also with the old couple. So at the beginning of the film, this couple who she's met on the airplane, apparently, and they've traveled together. Their initial interaction is pleasant, but once they're in the cab, we viewers can see immediately these are sinister beings.
It's weird.
It's very, very scary.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the end of the film, as Diane, they are these objects of terror.
It's like looming.
Who drive her to suicide. But it's almost as if Betty's courage and fearlessness protect her even from these, maybe demonic kind of entities in these old people. But Diane, the fearful version, has no protection.
Yeah, like she just, I mean, because that's the thing is, like, when we think about the scenes that we see with Diane, they're so desperate and fearful. Like, the masturbation scene is just, like, so hard to watch because it's, like, that's something, like, that should be pleasuring.
Yeah.
But instead, it's, like, so, like, sad and, like, just... Yeah, it's so fearful. Every like action that we kind of see with her, she's got such like a haunted look in her eye. I mean, which is such a credit to her acting.
Oh,
yeah. Like, I mean, really. But it's like when we see her as Betty, she's untouchable, it feels. Like all of her excitement, because like in that sort of path we see Rita as the fearful one.
Oh, she is.
Yeah. And it's like, but Betty's the one that's like, no, let's go see. You could almost picture it as Betty is Dorothy and then Rita's like the cowardly lion or something.
Yeah. Well, even her immediate trust of Rita is so Dorothy.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, come with me on this journey and let's find you the truth.
Yes.
Like for her thing, it's like rather than going to the wizard to get some courage, it's like, let's figure out what happened.
Right.
Let's find you. Like she's so not scared at all about any of the possibilities of like what they might find or what they might encounter on this journey. She is not ruled by fear. But Diane is. They're two sides of the same coin, but it is all about how the path that they are going down. It's about how they are approaching their relationship to fear.
You know, maybe the first time we see Betty afraid is when they encounter Diane's corpse, but that's a very reasonable reaction. And at Club Silencio, when she starts to convulse, we could read that as like fear entering her. In a way, like it's a frightened reaction.
Well, and also it's like, if you look at it through that lens, that's even more fascinating because it is such a like a physical reaction. And it's like as if like her body is like resisting it or something. It's like something is clearly happening to her, and it is like overwhelming her body. Like her physical system is being overwhelmed by something.
Instead of it being a conscious choice to be afraid. And so if we think about Mulholland Drive as this story of courage versus fear, which is one way to read it maybe, it is fitting then that it begins with the bum behind Winky's.
Yes.
Because what is that except a vignette about the power of fear?
Right.
That figure does nothing to Dan.
Right.
Except exist.
Yeah.
He is killed by his own fear of it.
Right. Which again is such a like intense physical reaction to it. Like, oh, that's just like, I mean, because I mean that is so true, right? Like fear does often manifest in like physical ways. Like panic attacks are a very physical, manifestation of that. But it speaks such volumes to the effect that fear can have on people. And sometimes the fear is more mundane. I mean, like the cowboy's speech, like when he's talking to him, it's like that kind of fear is more about like, his career flopping and stuff.
Right. I mean, he says, so since you agree, you must be a person who does not care about the good life. And that also fits with consumerism in a way, the idea that, if your head is aligned, then you're going to have access to this good life, this comfortable, materially provided life, which he does have.
Right. Like he's got the beautiful house, the nice car and everything.
And once he adjusts his attitude, so to speak, he has access to all of that again.
Right.
But in that sense, Adam saying this is the girl is his mantra. That's his manifestation.
Yes.
If he says this is the girl, the magic will happen.
Yes. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think one of the only last things that I want to touch on, that we are kind of pulling this from Lynch Oz, is how we said that Dorothy is never really sexualized in any way. What a comparison then when we think about like Judy Garland's life and a lot of like actresses of that time, because that's one of the things that's so interesting about The Wizard of Oz, is that like it's not like they weren't doing weird stuff back then. Like it's not like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like there weren't movies where women were being coerced or put in dangerous situations. It wasn't like they weren't talking about it back then. So for them to put out a movie that again is just like so like there's none of that. How incredible. But so one of the things that they pointed out in Lynch Oz was that comparison of Dorothy versus Judy Garland. And then do we see that with Betty and Diane? Because again, if we're looking at it through that lens of like maybe Diane is the reality and stuff, like how brutal that is and how much fear there is in that story and pain.
So Diane would be like the Judy Garland figure. And Betty is the Dorothy.
Again, a lot of people look at it through that lens of like you've got the dreamy fantasy where they're so optimistic, and then you've got the reality, which is much grittier.
Well, that's a perfect way to transition to talking about Wild at Heart, because I had a similar realization watching Wizard of Oz this time, that it was so restful for me in a way that I hadn't experienced it before, because I knew I didn't have to worry about Dorothy being sexually menaced.
Yeah. No one's ever like trying to touch her or leering at her even. And like,
And the camera doesn't either. Although she is clearly a 16-year-old girl and not a child. Her costuming isn't sexualized. The camera never
it's never lingering in a weird way. Yeah.
No. So both through the mechanics of the film and also the interactions with other characters, she faces peril.
Right.
But also it's such an obvious peril. It's a green-faced witch.
Right. The peril is never sexual in nature.
And it's never deceptive. It's never hidden.
Yeah.
You know, evil is wearing evil on its face, right there for her to see. Such a contrast between, poor Laura Palmer.
Right.
And her dad versus Bob. But so there is like a peace in watching The Wizard of Oz, because you don't have to deal with all the uncomfortable feelings that I think we as women viewers of media are so used to.
Right.
Reconciling or kind of being mentally prepared for. Or whatever.
It's like you're like waiting for this like piano to drop on you or something, or like an anvil, like cartoon style. Like you're like, okay, when's it gonna happen? When's something gonna go wrong? When is somebody gonna grab at her or something?
You always have to be emotionally braced for it. You really do. And so instead in The Wizard of Oz, we get this fantasy world where a girl is just a girl.
Yeah.
And she is free to explore an adventure without any threat. And it's like totally outside of rape culture.
Right. I mean, because that's the thing. It's like you hear so many stories of like women being like, I wish that I could travel the world. I wish that I could go camping by myself. I wish I could. And I say that. I've had so many conversations like that with friends where I'm like, yeah, I wish I could just like when the weather's nice, I wish I could just go for a walk at night and enjoy it.
Oh my gosh. Like go lay out in the park and watch the stars.
Right. And just like not have to worry that something bad might happen to me. So I think restful is the perfect word. When you're watching it, it feels just totally peaceful.
So with that in mind, I rewatched Wild at Heart, and this was my favorite viewing ever of Wild at Heart. It's the first time I've ever gotten emotional while watching it. I don't know if you get.
I do feel like I get a little misty-eyed at the end of it too, because it is like, it kind of leaves you with that uplifted feeling a bit. So I guess, I do get a little emotional. Yeah.
Where I got emotional this time was, I never really observed before how much Wild at Heart is about trauma. Mm-hmm. Like Lula's rape is a fact of the movie.
Right.
But I think in my memory, I remember it as just one scene where she kind of describes the situation to Sailor. And I noticed on this viewing how frequently it comes up.
Right. And you see the clips, you see the flashbacks.
Flashbacks of that, flashbacks of her father dying.
Yeah.
And whereas in previous viewings, I always saw the lighted match that keeps reappearing as like their passion, the burning. I kept thinking of it in terms of The Wizard of Oz, where the Scarecrow says the only thing he's afraid of is a lighted match.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, maybe this is a motif of fear or of the threat that is honestly pursuing these two adorable people.
Yeah, hunting them down and trying to because they finally found this safety and joy in each other, and then it's just like an ever looming kind of chasing them as they're running.
Yeah, and Sailor has been traumatized too.
Yeah.
He's lost both of his parents really young. He didn't have any parental guidance.
Yeah. We can forgive a little.
But they have found each other.
Right.
And they are perfect companions.
Yeah.
Physically, obviously, sexually, mentally. They're perfect friends.
Yeah.
They like get each other on every level, and they have perfect respect and equality between them.
Right. Well, with her being a victim of sexual violence, it's a lot. I mean, it's a broad spectrum depending on how people react to that kind of situation and that kind of experience. And you see, like, the two ends of the spectrum are, you hear a lot of stories of people, turning out to be asexual or just like really averse to sex. And then you hear of some people being hypersexual. I mean, like, Laura is very hypersexual, but she gets no pleasure out of it. Yeah. And I think Lula's kind of in the middle there, but it's that thing where if you experience something like that and you can find a partner that makes sex feel safe again
and happy and fun and joyful,
like actually enjoyable, like take something that you've only seen through a lens of so much pain and trauma, and then you meet that person that makes you feel safe enough to engage with it again, and it's great, and you actually enjoy it, and then you can rebuild these new memories of it and see it as something wonderful again.
You get to rewire the neurons around it. And when you think about Lula only being 13, this is probably her first experience. Yes. And it's violent.
Yeah,
her
and if
face
that's your
is
first
bloody.
and only, like, and then you find that person.
Yeah.
That changes everything. And how special that is that they are able to find each other.
And throughout this film, they use the language of The Wizard of Oz. They keep coming back to it as a point of reference. But Wild at Heart isn't a retelling of The Wizard of Oz.
No.
Right? It just kind of uses the shorthand of these images and elements to tell a different story.
Yeah.
I really like in Mike Miley's book, David Lynch's American Dreamscape, he has an essay in the book about rock and roll in Wild at Heart, but I think it also works really well for The Wizard of Oz. Miley writes, through this journey, Lynch presents the romantic ideal of art and rock and roll in particular as an essential generative force in a violent world. I think if we look at The Wizard of Oz, the way it's used in this film as also an essential generative force in a violent world, it is like a place of rest for them. It is a fantasy for these two traumatized people in a grotesque, perverted world. They keep coming back to it as a place where a young girl is not menaced, where evil wears a clear face, and where once defeated, evil leaves no scar. There is no trauma left behind.
It holds no power over them anymore. And I think that what's so interesting is because, like, they're always constantly moving and stuff, so home is not a place for them. Home is each other.
I agree with that.
That's the thing, is it's like, there's no place like home. And especially, like, if home is a person for you, which honestly I would say I think it's extremely common with people who have experienced trauma, like if both partners have had some kind of trauma and they find each other and they are healing together and stuff. Sometimes that safe place, it's not a physical room or something. It is being with your person and knowing that you are safe because you have your person with you. You can walk into any room and, you know, you don't feel alone and you don't feel, you know, helpless or anything because you have that person with you.
And that's why after the Bobby Peru scene with Lula, when she clicks her heels together, she wants Sailor back.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, she's not like, oh, I want to go home to my childhood home or anything. It's like, she's not wanting to go home to mom or anything. It's not.
She's crying out for Sailor. Yeah. And clicking her heels.
Because
she just needs him
home.
to come back.
Yes.
Home.
Oh, what a good connection.
They are home for each other. And so even at the end when he's arrested and Marietta and Santos come to get Lula and Marietta says, like, I'm going to take you home. Like, Lula wails.
Yeah.
You know, Santos goes to hug her and it's like a horrible sound.
Right.
So there is no invocation of there's no place like home.
Right.
In Wild at Heart, it's home is a bad place.
Yeah. Which, again, is very common.
Home.
Which is very common for people with traumatic pasts. We've talked about it before. I do tarot readings and stuff, and like the deck that I primarily use these days, it's called Lenormand, And one of the cards in the deck is the house card. And whenever that card comes up in a reading, I have to give like a lot of information and stuff with people, because I'm like, here's the thing about this card. It's a very complex card because it carries a lot with it, because it's not just like the physical house, it's also home, but, and then like, you know, it's like a lot of like parentheses and like air quotes and everything. It's like, you know, I'm like, okay, home, but when I say home, I mean the comfort and stuff, which I know that is that for some people home is not that for you, but I'm talking about what it represents. And it's also a card that represents family, but sometimes that family that is like your safe family is not your blood family. This is a home and family, but that looks different for different people. It's more about that sense that we attribute to it, that
it's
feeling.
where you get to be your true self, and where you get to rest, and for them it is each other,
right?
Gosh, in that way it's really fitting that the film ends in a car, not in a home, not in a physical house.
Because if home is a person to you, you can go anywhere. Like you can go literally anywhere.
And that seems to be represented then at the end of, they're in a car. They're or on a car.
And like, again, like they're encouraged to fight for that. They're encouraged to fight for that love and to hold on to that, because they have found a way to exist in this world that has hurt them so much.
And the key, one of the things that the good witch Cheryl Lee says is, don't be afraid. And is it fear that almost prevents Sailor from staying with Lula?
Maybe.
Is he afraid of how he can fit back into her life?
Right.
How he can be a father? Like, how will we make this work? It's been too long.
Right. Okay, so he like lets the fear in for a minute. Like they're moving and moving and moving, and they're not letting the fear hold on to them for too long. They're trying to hold on to that mind cure of like letting it pass them by, I think.
Like in the first part of the film.
And
sure.
And it's like
even that scene where Lula is scrolling through the radio stations and it's all terrible news, and she's like, I need music now.
Exactly. It's like that's so mind cure.
It's right out of a mind cure book.
Right. Because she's just like, absolutely not. I'm not putting up with that. I'm not going to think about that.
It's not that she's denying that it's a reality.
Right.
She has lived it.
Right.
But she's saying, no, we will force this out. We will dance.
Right.
You know?
Which, again, is very Wizard of Oz, because there's so many joyful music numbers. Like, music in the Wizard of Oz is such a source of celebration and conquering fear. Because like the Munchkins have their huge musical number, huge music and dancing, and it's all to celebrate and to show that now that the fear has been vanquished, they're unstoppable and they're unscarred by it.
So and what Lula and Sailor are up against, the terrors that are surrounding them and pursuing them are honestly so much worse than what's in the Wizard of Oz.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, that scene that's been cut from Wild at Heart where Johnny Farragut, I guess they cut his head off and were like bathing in his blood or something. I don't know if you've heard that story.
I don't think I have.
It didn't go well with test audiences. But even what's there, I mean, these are really horrifying villains. They're so over the top and cartoonish, but the thought of them getting their hands on Sailor and Lula is pretty awful.
Right.
You know? They are protected, in a sense, by their courage, by their resistance to fear, by their love for each other. And so at the end, when Lula throws that glass of water on the picture of her mother, like she's the Wicked Witch, we do feel like it's over.
For each other, they are that like kiss from the Witch of the North.
Yes,
it's
perfect.
like as long as they are together, it's okay. And like that's why when she's clicking her heels and hoping for Sailor, it's because Danger was only able to find her because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
In a way. As long as they're together, they're unstoppable.
Yeah, Bobby Peruke would not have victimized her.
No, it wouldn't have happened.
Sailor had been there.
Sailor would have killed him.
And also, Sailor being afraid of not being able to provide for Lula and his unborn child is probably what drives him to this robbery with Bobby Peru. So it is letting in that fear that I cannot provide for them.
Right.
So I think what really moved me on this watch of Wild at Heart was the realization that Sailor and Lula are beset by all kinds of terrors and evil that really can leave enduring scars in the form of trauma. But they keep retreating to this fantasy story where a girl is unmenaced and evil leaves no scar. So that it's really fitting that it ends with what I think could be seen as a pretty hokey deus ex machina of the good witch appearing.
Yeah.
But I really like how Mike Miley, again, in the same essay I referenced earlier, talks about the happy ending in Wild at Heart and says, these very cliches that critics find so ironically repulsive are for Lynch a means of escape from the darkness of the world. That's what I see too.
Yeah.
That it's very, very appropriate.
Yeah.
It is the right counter to the horrors that Wild at Heart presents.
Yeah, and it's like the same thing with in Blue Velvet. Like the ending to a lot of people seems hokey. Like people comment on, they're like, oh, it gets so cheesy at the end or something. Like, you know, they'll be like, oh, the Robin scene, and it's like, no, he's sincere. He is earnest when he's doing this. It's not a joke to him. He's showing us this because he's like, no, like it's like Good Times on Our Street. Like things can be safe and beautiful.
And so appropriately, when Jeffrey shoots Frank Booth and the detective, Sandy's father, comes in, he's like, it's over.
Right.
This is over now. Yeah. That's so mind cure.
Yeah.
The evil has been dispatched, and now the healing begins. And so that's why we see Jeffrey reclining joyfully on his lawn chair, and Dorothy is healed.
Yeah. Like we see her with her son. We see, you know, like it's so, like, I mean, in general, like, of course, people talk about like the color in Blue Velvet and everything, but I think that those scenes, like, they do have such a color to them. Like it is very Technicolor, very Wizard of Oz Technicolor in those moments, especially because it's just so like, we got here.
Yeah.
It's okay now. It's over now.
It is. It's over, and evil will not leave a trace. We have been to the dark side, and we can heal.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think this gets to a root of what I love about David Lynch so much.
Yeah.
In a sense, he's like a teller of fairy tales, but for a postmodern age.
Yeah.
In a way. So it's not in the way of something like Wicked.
Right.
Which we mentioned earlier. It's like Lynch retains these dichotomies of good and evil, and the darkness is darker. Right. It is so real. It is so unmistakable and relatable. And for many of us, that we feel seen. Like many of us who have experienced darkness feel seen by that. Yeah. You know, the traumas are real. Evil can wear a flimsy mask of good in Lynch's work, but good is never misunderstood as evil.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean by that?
No, yeah.
Like, we never see a character like Lucy or Andy mistaken as evil or bad.
Yeah. They've got such a purity about them.
Yeah. So there is darkness in Lynch, but not cynicism about that darkness. Yeah. So journeying through the darkness opens us to more light. His work is fully realistic about the suffering that darkness creates, but still unmistakably hopeful and optimistic. And so for those of us who are not easily fooled by positivity or who might have seen or felt too much of the world to be able to believe kind of innocence and light.
Yeah.
Lynch's work still gives us a way out.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, here's the darkness, and the innocence and light are still real also.
Well, I think that really sums up why, for like people like you and me, like we say all the time, like a lot of like David Lynch's work is like comfort watching for me. And people are like, I'll say that to like, a stranger or something, and they're like, what?
No.
They're like, why would that be comforting? And I'm like, you don't get it. I don't know. If you don't get it, I don't know if I can explain it to you, but maybe this is the language to use to better explain it to those people, is to be like, no, you don't understand. Like I've been through enough stuff in my life that when I watch David Lynch's work, I feel seen. I mean, I think that's why like so many like victims of various forms of abuse are also very drawn to his work.
Yeah.
and find so much strength and comfort in many of the characters. I think it speaks to you or it doesn't.
And it speaks the language of our culture.
Yeah.
Because it's so influenced by The Wizard of Oz. It's, even if it doesn't contain consumerism in the way that like we see characters buying and selling things or product placement, it is still steeped in this culture that we all exist in, the dream that has been dreamed for us, right? Yeah. And so it's by speaking the language of The Wizard of Oz and having that influence so deeply embedded in it, we recognize it as kind of speaking our language culturally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it is speaking to us of our reality in a kind of dreamy way.
Yeah.
And also showing us a reason for hope and optimism.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it's like, while not every single one of his works has necessarily a happy ending.
Lost Highway.
but it's like, we do often get, if not the ending itself has a moment of relief or joy, we do get those moments spread throughout. Like there are moments where you feel that sense of hope and that sense of relief and the idea that you can endure. For everything that happened to Laura, at the end of the day, she never stopped fighting and she never stopped being incredibly brave.
And even though she was really afraid, Lynch's work honors that fear. And so that's a departure in a sense from Mind Cure, that he really portrayed her reasons for being afraid as so valid.
Yeah.
And her fear is never the problem.
No.
Yeah. But then when we see her in the Red Room at the end, she is free.
Yeah.
Finally. She doesn't need to be afraid anymore.
Yeah, it's like tearful and overwhelming and so incredibly powerful.
Yeah. One of Frank Baum's sons said about him later in life, "My father was the Wizard of Oz." And maybe David Lynch is kind of our Wizard of Oz too. Yeah. He used color, light, and glass. He wove these stories for us, and through them we find new truths about ourselves. We find reasons for joy and hope and optimism in a dark world. He's our green glasses.
Yeah. And the wizard says, when he's talking in the book, he says to Dorothy and her companions that the people of Oz really love him, and he does care about them. And I think that also works then, because I think that it's true. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't really love David and all of the beautiful things that he's created for us to engage with.
Well, as we wrap up this episode on The Wizard of Oz, we discovered a kind of perfect transition to our next topic, because in the footnotes of our annotated Wizard of Oz, we were entertained to see that some scholars speculated that Oz really existed on Earth. And where did it exist, Indigo?
Apparently, it's Oz for Australia.
Yeah, there have been scholarly articles arguing that Oz is actually Australia.
Honestly, I could see it because the desert is a huge part.
Well, anyway, we're not going to argue that one way or another, but we're going there next. In our next episode, we're going to be discussing the film and the novel Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yes, which was a topic that was brought up to us by one of our listeners and now friends, Melita Rian, who will also be helping us with this episode.
She's going to be a guest. So next episode, we'll be discussing the book and the film with the Australian writer, Melita Rian.
Yay! We can't wait. Well, in the meantime, as always, we appreciate so much any reviews that you guys have. We've had a couple, especially really nice ones lately that have really moved us. Whatever platform you're listening on, if it allows for reviews, they always mean the world to us. And follow us on Instagram at Full Blossom of the Evening. If you have any thoughts about topics that we should explore, I mean, that's how we got to know Melita at all.
Yeah.
So please feel free to reach out and email us at fullblossomoftheeveningpodcast@gmail.com.
Well, listeners, thank you for being here with the Full Blossom of the Evening. And we'll sign off with,
it was Laura, and she's come to kiss you goodbye.
Goodbye, listeners.
Goodbye.
It was Laura, and I saw her glowing. I saw her smiling. I feel like I'm in a dream tonight.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. I must not
Feel flesh.
the mind killer. Crispy. Fear is the death that brings total obliteration. I will face my
Flesh. Popping off.
fear. Fear is the little death. I must not fear. Fear is the little